Good morning and welcome back to Almus Market Mornings. After President Donald Trump's latest push to take over Greenland, US benchmark stock indexes sank more than 2% and the dollar slid against most of the major currencies. The traders are hedging against more turbulence with signs of buying contracts targeting a further leap in the benchmark US 10-year yields. And of course, we have the precious metals continuing their dream run. And domestically, the RBI seems to keep the traders entertained, teasing the markets with a break of 91 in the USD INR over the last two sessions, only to pull the prices back and settle near the 90 handle. It's been a classic case of showing the exit and then shutting the door, keeping the volatility alive and the markets guessing about the next move. Good morning, Jayaram sir. Do you expect a bigger intervention by the RBI anytime soon?
Good morning, Ishan. Yeah, not likely. I think the market's moves have been quite orderly, and it doesn't look like there's been big speculative position build up in the USD INR. So it's been majorly driven by FI outflow, which is continuing, now touching about 2.7 billion for the month, and of course importers who have been covering on dips. I think it's RBI could be, of course, stopping the further depreciation around the previous highs for some time. But if they do perceive, genuine demand increasing, they may even let it further fall as well. Um the market itself is slightly hesitant at these levels because we have already seen a lot of fall in the last calendar year, and we are also heading towards a union budget in next 1 week or so, or a little over a week. So dollar index is also showing some weakness. So there is some hesitancy on the part of the market also. So I see market stalling at these levels and waiting for the next trigger. Of course, the global atmosphere is not good, conducive for the risk sentiment. Greenland issue has topped the news yesterday, even as the financial assets have crumbled. There have been a lot of statements. President Trump is not relenting on his position regarding Greenland. In fact, he has reaffirmed and escalated his stance rather than just backing down. In fact, he has also said he's also posed uncertainty over how far he would be willing to go to acquire Greenland, as he warned NATO alliance that it was only as strong as the United States allowed it to be. Basically, he's talking about the NATO alliance itself, kind of, not very strong right now, not supporting it anymore, as US always used to. Apart from Trump himself, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick also warned Europe against retaliation over President Donald Trump's Greenland tariff threat. While the U.S. Trade Representative also said the measures are a legitimate tool to force negotiations as well. From the European side, we have had a Danish pension fund, saying it has plans to get out of the U.S. treasuries. French President Macron said anti-coercion instrument is a powerful instrument that Europe should not hesitate to use. And anti-coercion instrument is a EU trade and foreign policy tool that is designed to deter and respond to economic pressure by non-EU countries and try to force a political or policy changes. So Europe itself is also preparing for appropriate retaliation. The situation doesn't look like it will resolve itself very soon. And even outside of US and Europe, Canadian Prime Minister also said the country strongly opposes any US tariff linked to Trump's push to acquire Greenland. Basically, the international opinion itself is quite against what the US is trying to do. It's very important to wait and see what happens. In the coming days. Meantime, Commerce Secretary Lutnick has also said that the interest rates in the US are too high, and if they cut interest rates by 100 basis points, US is going to grow at 6% or more. On an important development, or rather, I would say, uh, disappointing the market expectations. US Supreme Court also issued three decisions on Tuesday, but did not decide on the closely watched dispute over the legality of President Trump's global tariffs also. So I think this is the third time they have postponed a decision on this, and now, of course, the market will stop looking ahead to this decision. They will take it when it comes. Actually, uh, big fall in the global markets. U.S. markets were more than 2% down in Nasdaq and S&P 500. Dow also falling 1.76%. No, unlike in the past, whenever there is a big fall in the stocks, we see a fall in the yields, or rather rise in the bonds. But that was not to be. We have seen secular fall across asset classes yesterday, and therefore this is also driven by the rise in the yields in Japan. We had mentioned about rise in yields in Japanese 40-year bond to 4% for the first time. 10-year and 30-year also rising. That has had its own impact on the US Treasury yields as well. US Treasury yields have broken that resistance at 4.20, traded as high as 4.31 yesterday, slightly retraced, but the higher yields again not a good thing for the corporates because the financing cost is likely to increase as well. The volatility index VIX is also higher at 2-month high. Now, questions are asked whether the Greenland is a short-term jolt triggering knee-jerk reaction, or whether it is something substantial that will have longer implications for the markets. That is the question that investors are trying to answer. Asian markets also reacted negatively to the overnight moves, but have since somewhat recovered, and not seeing this risk aversion phase to end very soon, because there are already valuation concerns about the US, US markets, particularly the tech sector. While of course market also await more results from the big US corporates in the coming days. On the European side, while we have already talked about improving data, Europe is also doing a lot on its own. There is a huge trade deal that is being signed with India, which many tend to call it as the mother of all deals. Europe is very bullish on this because it covers 2 billion people and almost 25% of the global GDP. And apart from this, Europe is also closer to signing a Mercosur deal that paves the way for creating free market trade with the Latin American countries. So Europe is doing on its own what is good for itself. Just like India is also doing its own, not really bothering much about the absence of a US trade deal. The signing of EU trade deal by India is also good news, which the investors will be closely looking at for its implications. And in India is also getting huge amount of investments, of course, slightly medium term, dedicated to creating data centers in India. Latest deal talks about some 25 billion investment being planned in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So I think while we are seeing the rupee weaken and then the stock market correcting in the near term, these are good from the market's stability point of view. And of course, going forward, we could see these things reverse also as and when the flows start. Right now, the flows is what is missing as far as the rupee is concerned. The dollar index also surprised many by falling while all the geopolitical tensions are going on. But currently, it's as if there is a certain sentiment of sell American asset theme that is going on. So I think the euro and Japanese and as well as GBP are serving as some sort of a safe haven. Of course, the gold continues to don that role. Continue, even now. Silver, of course, is stalling a bit. Overall, dollar looks to me bit weak within the range, of course, unless we break the 97 dollar index, or on the euro, if we break until we break 1.19. We still continue to be in the range, but at least the dollar, which was tending to gain on the back of somewhat better data, in the last few weeks is tending to give up its gains. I think going into Wednesday, markets are on high alert as we head into speech by Trump at the Davos meeting, and what he's going to say there is definitely going to be closely watched. His address is scheduled at 7 p.m. India time today, and it is one of the highlight of the events at Davos this year with global leaders, business chiefs, and policymakers in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayaram. So, and as we wrap up, the lack of meaningful flows in the Indian markets continues to bias USD INR higher, even as the RBI appears to be holding the fort near the 91 level ahead of the union budget, suggesting markets may stay range bound for now. Globally, the Greenland episode dominated the sentiment yesterday, weighing on risk assets as NATO allies pushed back against the US stance, adding to this global geopolitical unease. And concerns were further amplified after Danish pension funds signaled plans to reduce their exposure to US treasuries, and another sign of fading confidence amid the rising tensions and tariff disputes with the Europe. And US equities fell nearly 2% across the board, with the weakness spreading across all the asset classes, driven by higher Japanese yields and persistent global uncertainty. With President Trump scheduled to speak at the Davos meeting today, markets remain on high alert, leaving investors to assess whether the Greenland shock was one of jolt or a start of a more prolonged phase of volatility. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll catch up tomorrow with a fresh round of updates.